Right now on Morning News Now, a renewed push for peace by President Trump. He's set to host Ukraine's President Zelenskyy at the White House today. Comes after Mr. Trump spoke one-on-one with Russia's Vladimir Putin, proposing a meeting in Hungary. Zelenskyy hoping to secure access to major U.S. weaponry to defend his country and take the fight to Russia. We've got the latest. Also this morning, President Trump's Department of Justice targeting another outspoken critic, his former national security advisor, John Bolton. Bolton now facing 18 counts of mishandling classified information, the latest probe into the president's political adversaries. Plus, if you feel like you've been inundated with those pesky spam robocalls and texts lately, well, you are not alone. New data shows those seemingly constant interruptions now at a 6-year high. So what's behind the surge and how can you fight back? And on your marks, get set, park. It is the ultimate test of automotive prowess that's giving curb appeal a whole new meaning. You might think parallel parking is a no-brainer, but I can tell you firsthand, the pressure is really on in this competition like no other. A parallel parking competition. Good to have you with us on this Friday morning. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment. For President Trump, the week started with a historic visit to the Middle East. Now, as the week comes to an end, he's turning his focus to another long-running conflict, the war in Ukraine. Today, he'll host President Volodymyr Zelenskyy at the White House. The Ukrainian leader is expected to push for more American-made air defenses and long-range missiles. As for the Middle East, President Trump is issuing a warning to Hamas after a chilling new video. It appeared to show Hamas fighters carrying out public executions in the streets of Gaza. NBC's Alice Barr joins us now with more on all this. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. President Trump said that he may try for, in his words, separate but equal meetings with Russia and Ukraine's leaders instead of the joint summit he once sought to jumpstart stalled peace talks. President Trump wading back into negotiations over the Ukraine war, hosting Ukrainian President Zelenskyy today at the White House and announcing a second in-person meeting with Russian President Putin in Hungary in the coming weeks, after what he called a very productive phone call with Putin Thursday.
We want to stop the killing. 7,000 people a week. Can you believe it? We want to stop the killing.
The fighting in Ukraine has only intensified in the 2 months since the last Trump-Putin summit in Alaska, and the president has repeatedly voiced frustration with Putin for keeping up the attacks.
I'm very disappointed at him because I thought this would have been an easy one to settle.
Frustration sometimes directed at Zelenskyy, too, who is expected today to press for long-range Tomahawk missiles that would help Ukraine strike deep into Russia.
I don't know what we can do about that.
President Trump citing American need.
We can't deplete for our country. So, you know, they're very vital. They're very powerful.
Russia has warned any Tomahawk transfer would significantly damage U.S.-Russia relations, though Zelenskyy said he believes the threat of the weapons had forced Moscow to resume negotiations. Zelenskyy also noting he hopes to build off President Trump's success brokering a Gaza ceasefire, as the president responded to deeply troubling videos of Hamas conducting public executions, clearly not disarmed. The president writing, if Hamas continues to kill people in Gaza, which was not the deal, we will have no choice but to go in and kill them, though he underscored U.S. troops would not be involved in the fight. We're also tracking rising tensions over the U.S. military strikes on alleged Venezuelan drug cartel boats in the Caribbean, with another hit yesterday, leaving survivors for the first time, according to a U.S. official. That amid word the top U.S. military officer overseeing operations in the region is retiring abruptly without a public explanation as to why. Joe?
All right, Alice, thank you. Former National Security Advisor John Bolton is now the latest in a string of vocal Trump critics to face federal charges. A grand jury in Maryland handed down the federal indictment yesterday. Bolton now faces 18 counts of mishandling classified information, charges he denies. The FBI raided his home and office over the summer as part of the investigation. Keep in mind, Bolton was actually the National Security Advisor during the first Trump term, but their relationship soured, and now he is the latest Trump adversary to be hit with criminal charges. Also on that list, former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. We get the latest details from NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett.
He once served as the national security advisor to the president. John Bolton facing 18 counts of mishandling national defense information, indicted by a federal grand jury in Maryland. President Trump reacting just as the indictment was made public.
I think he's a bad guy. Yeah, he's a bad guy.
Bolton's feud with President Trump, well documented. The former national security advisor publishing a scathing memoir in 2020 detailing his time in the first Trump White House. The meticulous notes he kept while working for Trump now at the center of Bolton's indictment. Prosecutors alleging Bolton often took handwritten notes on a yellow pad, later transcribing them into Word documents, and then secretly emailing two family members diary-like entries, including details about future attacks and foreign adversaries, spanning over 1,000 pages. Prosecutors adding that years after Bolton left office, someone believed to be associated with Iran hacked Bolton's personal email account and gained unauthorized access to the classified information. Bolton's attorney saying he did not unlawfully share or store any information, adding Bolton kept diaries, that is not a crime. For years now, Bolton and Trump have traded barbs, with the president criticizing his handling of classified documents.
Classified information, that's illegal, and you go to jail for that.
Bolton has maintained the book he published contained no classified material, and a lengthy FBI probe ultimately ending during the Biden administration with no charges. But this summer, the FBI conducted searches of Bolton's home and office, officials seen with boxes in hand, also seizing his phones and computers.
He's already come after me and several others in withdrawing the protection that we had. I think it is a retribution presidency.
And our thanks to Laura Jarrett for that report. It is day 17 of the government shutdown, which is now expected to extend until at least next week. For the 10th time, the Senate failed to pass a House spending bill with no signs of a resolution in sight. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Melanie Zanona is with us now. So, Mel, another Senate vote, another rejection. Bottom line, without a deal, we know how these votes are going to end up going in. So in the meantime, though, lots of folks aren't getting paid. What's next?
Yeah, that's right. The Senate left town for the weekend yesterday. Meanwhile, the House is out of session. And so the earliest that they can even have another vote on reopening the government would be Monday. But, Joe, even if they do that, they are nowhere closer to actually reopening the government because both sides are as dug in as ever. Now, I will say that Senate GOP has started finally shaking up his strategy for the shutdown a little bit. Yesterday, he did hold a vote on a year-long funding bill for the Defense Department, which also includes the military. That bill did fail. And then next week, he's planning on putting a bill on the floor that would pay federal workers during a shutdown. So people like TSA agents, people like the Capitol Police, people who are forced to work without pay currently. Now, Democrats have been very united in their strategy so far. But for Republicans, the thinking is they're going to try to make Democrats take as many tough, uncomfortable votes as possible and hope that pressures them into ultimately caving.
So, Mel, speaking of Senate Majority Leader John Thune, he was talking with MSNBC yesterday. He said he offered Democrats what he called a guarantee on holding a vote on those expiring Obamacare subsidies. That seems to be the key sticking point in these shutdown talks. Tell us more about what he offered and how Democrats are responding.
This is just one potential off-ramp that has been discussed to get out of the shutdown. The idea is that the GOP leadership would agree to hold two side-by-side votes, one on reopening the government and one on a one-year extension of the expiring Obamacare subsidies, along with a verbal commitment that Republicans would promise to address a longer-term health care solution at some other date in the future. Let's just listen to John Thune talking about this idea.
I've said we are willing to have the conversation. I've said if you need a vote, we can guarantee you get a vote by a date certain. At some point, Democrats have to take yes for an answer. But I agree totally. We are all about getting health insurance down, making it affordable to more people. Can I guarantee an outcome? No. I mean, and that's what some people want to say. Guarantee us that this is going to pass. I can't guarantee it's going to pass. I can guarantee you that there will be a process and you will get a vote.
Now, it seemed that Democrats are pretty much rejecting this proposal, so there's not a lot of hope that this is going to work. And their reasoning is that they don't trust Republicans to make good on some of these verbal commitments. And they also say that they need more than a vote. They want a guaranteed outcome, a guaranteed result. Otherwise, they see it as pointless and just another show vote. So speaking of Democrats, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says he's going to be among the millions who are expected to take part in tomorrow's No Kings rally. What's he saying about that? And do we have an idea of just how big these protests are expected to be? Well, according to organizers, they are expecting millions of protesters to turn out all around the country. They did have similar demonstrations earlier this summer, but Democrats say this movement has really taken on even a new sense of urgency after Trump has tried to send federal troops into major American cities all over the country. Let's just listen to what Schumer had to say about the rally.
This weekend's No Kings rallies will be an affirmation about what America is all about. I will join the marchers to celebrate what makes this country so great. And I say to my fellow citizens, do not let Donald Trump or Republicans intimidate you into silence. Now, Republicans have referred to this rally as the Hate America rally. They've also preemptively suggested that there's going to be violence, but we should point out that during these rallies in the summer, they were overwhelmingly peaceful, Joe. All right, Mel, thank you so much. New York City's mayoral race is heating up in the final stretch before Election Day. Last night, Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani, independent candidate Andrew Cuomo, and Republican nominee Curtis Sliwa all faced off. It was a fiery debate full of personal attacks, and they covered a range of topics from President Trump and the use of the National Guard to fighting crime to Israel. State Assemblyman Mamdani, who's leading by double digits in the polls, and former New York Governor Cuomo clashed almost from the start.
This is not a job for a first-timer. Any day, you could have a hurricane, you have, God forbid, a 9/11, a health pandemic. If you don't know what you're doing, people could die.
Mr. Mamdani, you want to respond?
And if we have a health pandemic, then why would New Yorkers turn back to the governor who sent seniors to their death in nursing homes? That's the kind of experience that's on offer here today. What I don't have in experience, I make up for in integrity. And what you don't have in integrity, you could never make up for in experience.
Yes. We have the architect and we have the apprentice of close Rikers Island, which would just release criminals in the street. Thank God I'm not a professional politician, because they have helped create this crime crisis in the city that we face, and I will
Thank you, Mr. Sliwa.
Candidates will debate one more time next Wednesday before the start of early voting on Saturday, October 25th. That is a week from tomorrow. Concern is growing that Wall Street is in the middle of a bubble that could soon burst. It has been a good year for investors. There are more 401k accounts with million-dollar-plus balances than ever before. But yesterday, the Dow dropped more than 300 points, what would normally be considered a blip in a record-breaking year for the stock market. But broad worries persist. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung takes a closer look.
Markets have been mixed as of the last few days, but the overall story for this year has been a stock market that's been off to the races, leaving some to ask the question, is it too good to be true? It's bringing back memories of the dot-com bust in 2001, or worse, the housing crisis in 2008.
It's a bank rescue like we haven't seen since the Great Depression.
Breaking new records as an artificial intelligence boom pushes investors to pour money into the stock market. Some say that's an early sign of excitement.
I think we are, could we be in the third inning? So I think this is just taking off.
Third inning of investment in AI?
Oh, sure.
But others suggest it could be the makings of another financial bubble.
You know, the problem with bubbles is it's hard to know if they're really what you think they are until it's too late.
The big banks seeing both sides of the coin. They reported knockout earnings this week, but Jamie Dimon, CEO of the nation's biggest bank, warned that some at-risk companies may be hiding behind this roaring stock market.
Probably shouldn't say this, but when you see one cockroach, there's probably more. You know, and so everyone should be forewarned on this one.
It's not just Dimon. A new survey of 130 CEOs showed a majority expect a mild economic slowdown with slightly increased inflation pressure. There are also mixed signs from investors. The S&P 500 broke several new records this year, but so did gold, as skeptical traders turn to what's typically a safe alternative in uncertain times.
The average person with stocks, what should they be doing right now in this market moment? really just stick in there. Don't make any big changes. I mean, any sort of attempts at market timing can fall flat.
And a lot of this points to a divergence between Main Street and Wall Street. Research using data from Moody's shows that 17% was the increase in real consumer spending among the wealthiest, who are usually more likely to own stocks, whereas the middle class, a little bit less likely to own stocks, their real consumer spending was flat. And here's another stat for you. Over 30% of Americans have no stake in the stock market, meaning that those gains have been missed by a large chunk of the population. Back to you.
All right, Brian, thank you. It's one of the daily annoyances of modern life, automated spam calls looking to steal your personal information or your money. If it feels like you're getting more of those annoying robocalls and texts than ever before, well, guess what? New data shows you are. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello explains.
Nearly everyone with a cell phone gets them.
I'm calling in reference to your federal student loans.
This message is from the loan department.
It's imperative that I speak with you as soon as possible before this pre-approval expires.
Spam and scams.
Kid you not, every day, all day, I keep getting spam calls.
Consumer watchdog PIRG says spam robocalls are up 20% to a 6-year high.
These calls come from multiple different area codes all throughout the country, and they're nonstop.
420 million more calls each month as criminals use AI to trick their victims.
And they only need just a teensy tiny percentage of them to work. And all of a sudden they've got, thousands of dollars that they didn't have a couple of minutes before.
Most people hang up, but the average victim loses almost $3,700. Researchers say fewer than half the phone companies have installed the FCC required caller ID or filters to block the calls. The U.S. telecom industry tells NBC News robocalls have actually been declining, and phone companies have rolled out blocking and labeling tools for their customers to successfully trace these malicious scammers and fraudsters to their source and work with law enforcement to shut them down. The expert advised don't answer any call or text from a number that you don't recognize. Delete and report them on your cell phone. And never provide personal information or credit card information to cold callers that very well could be a scam. Back to you.
Some useful advice, Tom. Thank you. In Alaska, thousands of residents are in temporary shelters after they had to be airlifted by the National Guard. At least one person has died after a devastating typhoon triggered fast-moving floodwaters that swept away entire coastal communities. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz has the details.
One of the largest airlifts in Alaska history. Hundreds of people packing into military planes and helicopters to be flown 500 miles to safety after a massive storm hammered the state, leaving people trapped in several low-lying villages along Alaska's west coast.
A lot of mist right here that washed all the way up.
Remnants from a typhoon triggered widespread destruction. According to state police, a 67-year-old woman was killed and 2 of her family members are missing.
She was the kindest person. She opened her doors to people.
Several people rescued. Some communities, like the village of Kipnuk, nearly wiped out after water levels rose more than 6 feet above normal high tide. Here you can see one of the many homes that was swept away.
A lot of houses were taken off their foundations. A lot of houses are floating down the river with people in them.
Unable to return home, as many as 2,000 displaced residents overwhelming makeshift shelters in the remote communities, prompting an urgent evacuation. The National Guard airlifting evacuees to Anchorage, where the city has set up a large shelter at the Alaska Airlines Center.
We're anticipating upwards of 1,400 people, I think, is the number. This is traumatic. Folks are coming in here with just clothes on their back in some cases.
And the Red Cross says these evacuations could last for several more days. Many of these villages are only accessible by air or water, and the destruction there is so bad that officials are calling this a prolonged relief operation that could last for months. Back to you.
Liz Kreutz, thank you. Let's take a look at what to expect this weekend with your Morning News Now weather. Angie Rassman is here with the forecast. Angie, good morning.
Hi, Joe. Good morning to you. We made it to Friday, and there is a bit of a chill in the air across the Northeast. We once again need those extra layers as we head out the door. You can see these frost advisories, freeze warnings up for more than 20 million people across this region. And temperatures dropping into the 20s for Lake Placid. We've got 30s for Scranton and Buffalo. Close to the coast, of course, not quite as chilly, but still upper 40s. So maybe a light sweater before you head out. We can see those temperatures kind of rebounding later today to more mild conditions. Not the case, though, if you live in the middle of the country. We are way warm. Nothing, definitely not mild across parts of the Great Lakes, the Midwest, stretching up and down the plains. We've got 90 degrees on tap for Shreveport today. Temperatures running almost 20 degrees above normal in Kansas City with 84 and 80s and 70s across this region for the next couple of days. It's still going to feel like summer in October for tomorrow for these folks in this region, as well as we get into the rest of our weekend. And then we'll kind of keep parts of the Northeast staying fairly mild. So if you're looking for the 60s in Washington, D.C., you get them by Monday, but you wrap up your weekend with temperatures into those mid-70s. New York City kind of feeling like fall in some spots for Monday and Tuesday. Similar story for Cleveland. And we drop down into the 50s for Milwaukee by Sunday. Big picture look as far as rain chances go over the next couple of days. We're still tracking that same system that's kind of sliding across the country. It's moving across the Midwest today. We'll likely see some of these thunderstorms popping up across parts of the southern central plains as we get through the evening hours tonight. And then notice the showers and thunderstorms that ramp up right along and ahead of that front here as we get into tomorrow. So if you live in the mid to lower Mississippi Valley tomorrow and you have outdoor afternoon plans, you're going to want to have a way to get alerts. We've got that severe risk. Some strong thunderstorms could likely develop ahead of this system as it works east. By the time we get to Sunday, it'll be a rainy day across the Great Lakes and the Appalachians. Some of this area really needs the rain, though, so we are looking on the bright side indeed. I know it might interrupt some outdoor plans for your weekend, but we desperately need some rain in this region. We leaf peepers have been sad about it because it's affecting that. So, of course, I know there's bigger fish to fry than, tourism from looking at leaves, but we need the rain all in all. That's going to be the big picture look there, guys. Nice day out west if you're going to be out and about anywhere from the Rockies to the West Coast. Great conditions for Saturday. We keep it going by Sunday.
I hadn't heard leaf peepers in like a year, and it just makes me
You're
giggle.
welcome.
Thank you.
one of those things that's like, what a perfect name for that.
No kidding. All right, Angie, thank you so much.
You got it.
Much more to come on this Friday edition of Morning News Now. Let's have a little fun as we head into the weekend. A little later, I am putting my parallel parking skills to the test in a one-of-a-kind competition that's got eager Pittsburgh drivers kicking their cars to the curb, literally. First, after the break, the world's top sumo athletes descending on London for the first grand tournament outside of Japan in decades. We'll take you inside the ring next. Welcome back. 1 week after that ceasefire went into effect between Israel and Hamas, aid groups are warning not enough food and medicine is getting into Gaza to help the enclave's starving population. Israel is continuing to restrict the amount of aid getting into the Strip and delaying the opening of the key Rafah border crossing with Egypt. Israel is blaming Hamas for not handing over the remaining bodies of hostages. Hamas says it needs more time to locate them because of the massive amounts of destruction in Gaza. NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley joins us now from Tel Aviv. So, Matt, both sides accusing each other of violating this one-week-old ceasefire. Israel says this delay is handing over hostage bodies, and that is threatening the truce. Well, Hamas says Israel is violating the truce by killing 24 Palestinians over this last week. And as we mentioned earlier, we're seeing these public executions by Hamas angering President Trump. Just what's the latest on all this? How tenuous, how fragile is the ceasefire right now?
Yeah, it's just like you're saying. I mean, the situation is still very tense, still very violent. People are still dying in the Gaza Strip. But relative to what we were seeing as recently as last week, the situation has calmed down considerably. That having been said, it looks as though, as you mentioned, that this ceasefire is very much in jeopardy, given all of the disputes between the two parties. Now, Hamas has said that they are trying their very best to deliver those 28 bodies to the Israelis. So far, they've given over 10 bodies, one of which was determined to not be one of the hostages at all. So now this was something that Israel and the negotiators knew. This was something that Hamas had sort of telegraphed in advance, that it was going to be very difficult for them to recover the bodies in time. They've said that they need outside people to help. Now, if you look at these pictures in front of you, you can see why. Gaza is completely destroyed. And actually, from the people that I've been speaking to, they say that some of the operatives, some of the Hamas militants who buried some of these bodies have since been killed in the war. So there aren't any people who know where the bodies are actually buried, which is obviously complicating things. And this was something that Hamas had said in advance. So whether or not this alone breaks the ceasefire, that's unclear. So far, it looks as though Israel has gone the route of what they might call sanctions, withholding aid as punishment to Hamas for not providing those bodies. That is, in a way, preferable to resuming this costly, deadly war.
So, Matt, I mean, some aid has been entering the enclave, but aid groups saying it is not enough to help Gaza's starving population. Do we know when Israel could reopen this Rafah crossing to let more aid in? Is it contingent upon the issue with the remaining hostage bodies?
Yeah, it's a good question because actually Israel had threatened to dock some of the intake of aid into the Gaza Strip, but didn't go through with it. They were saying that they were going to reduce the number of trucks allowed into Gaza by half, from 600 to 300, as punishment for Hamas not providing those bodies that I just mentioned. Turns out they didn't follow through with that, but aid is still not going into the level of satisfaction to aid organizations and advocacy institutions. But at the same time, you were asking about the Rafah crossing. We heard from Israel Katz, the defense minister, saying that Rafah, that's the border between the Gaza Strip and Egypt, could open as soon as Sunday, but not to aid, only to foot traffic. The Israelis say that aid is flowing freely through the Kerem Shalom crossing between Israel and the Gaza Strip. But, as I said, as you said, there isn't enough aid at all, considering the gaping need that Gazans have been enduring for the past 2 years.
Matt, I know we've also been following the fate of a prominent Gaza physician, Dr. Abu Safia. He was captured and detained by Israeli forces without charge nearly a year ago. Many were hoping he would have been part of those released as part of the ceasefire deal. Looks like he's staying in detention longer. What's going on here? What's NBC News hearing from his family and supporters?
Yeah, I mean, they were hoping, but they also, according to his family, they had information that he was going to be included, and then he wasn't. And instead, his administrative detention has been extended by 6 months. Just a quick note, administrative detention essentially means, and this is something that happens with some regularity here in Israel, it means being held without charge. So with very little recourse to the legal levers that would allow him to dispute his detention. Now, the family members have been communicating with NBC News. Again, he's a prominent physician, as you're seeing here in these pictures, and they describe their heartbreak at his not being released as part of that prisoner and hostage exchange deal.
All right, Matt Bradley, appreciate all your reporting this week. Thank you so much. We've got some more international news now. Unrest in Peru as overnight protests by Gen Z activists turned deadly. NBC's Matt Bodner joins us now with our world news in 60 seconds. Matt, good morning.
Gen Z is on the march, Joe, and the Peruvian president is refusing to back down. The president yesterday formally refused calls by massive protests to resign. These demonstrations started last month, and they've been largely driven by Gen Z activists. They're calling for better pensions and wages. Crackdowns on the movement have seen one protester killed and about 100 people injured, 80 of them police officers. Moving along now to Argentina, a team of paleontologists has uncovered the remains of what they believe to be one of the oldest species of dinosaur. The new discovery is believed to have lived approximately 230 million years ago. The skeleton is nearly complete, and it suggests that it was a long-necked herbivore, about 2 meters long. And we'll wrap up this hour in Germany. Following the release of Taylor Swift's new album, The Life of a Showgirl, German Swifties are flocking to a museum in central Germany. It houses a painting of Shakespeare character Ophelia, similar to the one seen in the video for her song, The Fate of Ophelia. A museum spokesperson told the BBC they're astonished at the interest. I, however, am not.
No kidding. That's a good thing. As long as they don't think Taylor painted it, that's great. Whatever it takes to get folks to the museum. All right. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. Sumo Mania is taking over London as the UK's capital hosts the Grand Sumo Tournament. It's actually only the second time the event has been held outside Japan in the sport's 1,500-year history. And as NBC's Molly Hunter reports, the athletes have been making the most of their time in the city.
Across London this week, they are impossible to miss. About 40 elite sumo wrestlers, known as rikishi, some tipping the scales at more than 500 pounds, have come to town with great fanfare. Spotted crossing Abbey Road, riding e-bikes, strolling with another Japanese superstar, Hello Kitty, taking in the city sights, and greeting very, very eager fans.
I can't wait to go. We're so excited.
Yeah. It's been really exciting seeing them over here and being like, that's so close to us. And like, we thought we'd take the opportunity to try and bump into a few of them.
Let's go, fast.
And mid-conversation, an opportunity presented itself.
You're the best. He's your favorite? Yeah, absolutely.
He's brilliant.
Brilliant.
He's very unconventional fighter, isn't he? That's his style.
He is.
Very acrobatic.
These tickets have been sold out for months, and the last time sumo came to London was 34 years ago, selling out Royal Albert Hall in 1991.
And NBC News covered that event then, the first grand tournament in 1,500 years to be held on foreign soil.
The British fans love this samurai superstar.
You win by forcing your opponent out of the ring, the dohyo, or throwing them down inside of it. Outside Royal Albert Hall, 8-year-old Haruto from Nagoya, Japan, knows all the rikishi names. For the first time, along with those lucky enough to nab tickets, he'll see all the heavy hitters in one place. Molly Hunter, NBC News, London.
I was waiting for Molly to give it a try. All right, thank you, Molly. Coming up, an NBC News investigation. We're going to bring you the story of one Kansas man who's fighting for relief after being denied coverage for a life-changing back surgery, and how his insurance provider handled the case after we stepped in. That's next on Morning News Now. We are back with a closer look at a frustrating challenge many Americans face with their insurance companies' denial of coverage. One man in Kansas with debilitating back pain saw a story on NBC Nightly News. It was so similar to his experience, he reached out to our team for help. NBC News correspondent Ann Thompson has more of his story and the care he finally received after we investigated.
Bernie and Diane Hoffman are avid hikers. In years past, walking Spain's Camino de Santiago.
123 miles.
So no back pain on the Camino?
No back pain.
Pain-free in Italy and Ireland, too. Now the 68-year-old grandfather in Wichita, Kansas can't walk more than 10 yards.
How fast did this back pain come on?
I use the term, it went from zero to holy crap.
Since December, adapting nearly every activity to live with pain that's literally turned him upside down in search of relief.
I've got shooting pain, I've got burning pain, I've lost feeling in about half my foot. Get on the floor.
Even going so far as getting a human dog bed.
When you're in this position, are you in pain?
Yes, but it's minimal.
His doctor says he needs spinal reconstruction.
See, this is the vertebrae that is moved.
To fuse vertebrae and take pressure off nerves. His insurer, Aetna, said no.
Good boy. We actually had dates penciled in early May for the surgery. Then we get the decline for the procedure.
They declined it in part because you hadn't had physical therapy.
Correct. To which my doctor said, we can't physical therapy your back into, position.
Bernie did it anyway, but the surgery was denied again.
It's so hard to watch someone you love go through something like that and think, okay, we can fix this though, and then not be allowed to get that done.
Of course, then the physician says, well, we'll appeal, right? So there is an appeal process.
An appeal Bernie says didn't seem to be going anywhere. Then he turned on the news.
One family struggled to get coverage for the surgery needed by a young woman.
We see this story, the cost of denial, right? And it's about a woman who has severe back pain, who's had multiple denials from the same insurance company. And we look at each other like, that's us, right?
And like that story, within 24 hours of NBC News reaching out, Bernie learned this.
I get an email from Aetna saying, we've approved your procedure. So I don't think that was a coincidence.
Aetna tells NBC News that Bernie's doctor had 2 opportunities to engage with its medical team and declined to do so. After NBC News contacted Aetna, the company says it proactively contacted Bernie's physician for documentation that had not been previously provided. They now say they plan to cover the spinal surgery.
There we go.
Bernie disputes that the information was not provided when Aetna requested it, and his doctor declined to talk to us. Now Bernie looks forward to the day he can pick up his grandchildren again.
What has this denial cost you?
Well, if I get the surgery on the 21st of October, which is the schedule, by the time I recover, I will have lost an entire year of normal life.
Time he will never get back. Ann Thompson, NBC News, Wichita, Kansas.
Coming up, a troubling job market trend that's got some top labor officials sounding the alarm. When Morning News Now returns, we're going to dig into a stunning new report revealing that black unemployment is surging. So what is behind the uptick and how is it impacting workers? We got that up next. We are back with a troubling trend that experts say could be a warning sign for the economy. Data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that black unemployment has surged from 6% in May to 7.5% this month. In that same time, unemployment has dropped slightly for white workers. It is especially startling because just 2 years ago, black unemployment hit a record low. Some economists say the Trump administration's mass layoffs and aggressive push to end diversity programs could be to blame. For more, let's bring in Diedrich Asante Muhammad. He is the president of the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies. Diedrich, good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us this morning. So we know black unemployment's been on the rise since those pandemic subsidies went away, subsidies that actually helped lower unemployment numbers. We also know when President Trump took office this year, one of the first moves he made, ordering government contractors to stop pursuing racial equity, later cutting DEI programs in the federal government. Help us put this all into context. What's the impact all these changes are having on black workers?
Yeah, I mean, I think, that's something many of us are wrestling with. One thing we have noticed is that actually, there was a turn against the DEI that happened really almost a year after the George Floyd murder. So by 2023, you are already seeing some corporate pullback from, and again, DEI is a broad thing, but we at the Joint Center, America's Black Think Tanks, focus on is how does it focus on black workers, and the idea of actually doing outreach, of actually trying to make sure that blacks were represented at proportional levels in their offices was already retracting. And then, as you mentioned, as the Trump administration comes into power and takes that to government and actually puts more pressure on corporate America to move away from that, we've been seeing an increase of black unemployment from 6 to around 7.5%, which is troubling because it was exciting that for the first time in generations, we were seeing African-American unemployment at such low rates and actually for the first time bridging the 2-to-1 inequality that historically has been the reality for blacks and whites. And so I think this with the government shutdown, with cutting government jobs, raises much questions about the economy as a whole, and particularly how it will affect black America.
We know historically black workers have faced more employment and economic challenges than their white counterparts. How is this surge we've seen in just the last few months different from what we've seen in the past?
Well, I mean, as you're noting, it's several things are coming together. This kind of anti-DEI effort, and actually anti-DEI, and oftentimes it seems outright anti-black effort of even just getting rid of black officials and then replacing them with whites, and almost the idea that if you have a black person in your office, that is somehow a DEI program versus this is something, versus people being hired because they're well credentialed and not being discriminatory and preventing people from having an opportunity. So this plus this kind of unsure economic reality we're in, with kind of constant changes in government policy, tariffs, these types of things. There's been concern for years that the country is headed toward a recession. And my great concern is that if the country goes into a recession at the same time that we're dismantling government programs, government services that are so effective in keeping the economy going when the private economy is weak, could mean that we are weak in two areas, and those who are most vulnerable will suffer the most.
Is this potentially a canary in the coal mine for the broader economy?
It could be. It could be. It is interesting that as we've seen black unemployment go up, we've seen white unemployment go down. And I think one other factor we have to look at is there is a technological revolution occurring. And, there's been concerns about where technology leads to some mass job layoffs. And so if we have that with a weak economy, with the one thing left, which would be government to kind of help people go through a transition, if we weaken that as well, we could be headed to a very challenging time.
Diedrich Asante Muhammad, thank you for your time this morning. Important conversation. We appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me.
Some more financial headlines now. Weight loss drug giants are under pressure on Wall Street as the White House targets prescription costs. CNBC's Frank Holland joined us now with that and some other money news. Frank, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Good to see you as well. Shares of Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, they're under some pressure this morning This is after the president vowed to cut the price of their popular weight loss drugs. The president saying Ozempic will be, quote, much lower once the administration wraps up talks with Novo Nordisk, suggesting it could fall to as low as $150. Earlier this year, the company cut the price for people who cannot get Ozempic through their insurance. They cut it in half, down to $499. Nintendo is asking its suppliers to produce up to 25 million units of the new Switch 2 console by the end of March. Bloomberg is reporting that would set up the company for record sales in the device's first year. Nintendo's future hinges on the Switch 2 being a big success. It's more than doubled spending on marketing since the launch back in June to ensure that the Switch 2 gets off to a fast start. And Waymo is teaming up with DoorDash to make its self-driving cars a delivery option for users in the Phoenix area. You can already hail a ride, but this will give the robotaxis just something to do when they're not driving people around. Deliveries will initially be limited to things you can order through DashMart, which is DoorDash's platform for convenience and grocery stores. Once your order arrives, you're going to have to get it out the trunk to complete the delivery. That's not too bad, though. Just walk out there, grab it out the trunk, you got your stuff, Jeff.
I was about to say, I hope it's not bringing the delivery to your door, actually. So, all right. All right, Frank, thanks to you and all our friends at CNBC. We appreciate it. For 5 years, Pittsburgh has hosted a contest that puts your driving skills to the test. Actually, one skill in particular, parallel parking. Now, you might be thinking, I could win that. I thought so, too. So I traveled to Pittsburgh to give it a shot. Let's just say when the pressure's on, when strangers are watching, when you have to park fast without hitting another car or hitting the curb, then you just might face a roadblock.
Beneath a rusty bridge in the heart of Steel City.
All right, good luck.
Cars are willingly lining up to tackle the most dreaded part of the driver's test.
No!
The skill that drives us nuts.
How'd it go there?
Well, I was disqualified to hit the curb.
This is the Pittsburgh Parallel Parking Competition, a friendly neighborhood contest created by Dan Lever back in 2021.
Why on earth are you doing this?
My mother is a good parallel parker. That flowed into me as an adult. So, I also think that I'm a good parallel parker, and I've proved myself wrong with my own event.
Dan developed a complex formula taking 3 things into account: speed, distance from the curb,
25,
and the length of your car. The bonus for the bigger vehicles wedging into the 20-foot space.
You know, somebody who does well in an F-150 versus a Honda Fit, that's a different game.
And yes, if you hit the curb, you're DQ'd.
I thought about coming in my Honda Fit, but that didn't feel like a real challenge. So
Now are you rethinking your strategy?
I mean, nothing's stopping me from going home and getting it.
Woo, here we go. Tracy Berg-Fulton gave it a shot driving a retro 1959 Nash Metropolitan. She had to curb.
Power steering ain't working either. Oh, there it is. Oh, no.
Her enthusiasm.
In my daily driver, I'm quite good. When I don't have power steering, I lose a little bit there.
What if the steering wheel is on the other side? Pete Scott brought his Hilux Surf, a Japanese car that fared fairly well.
Do you think this gives you an unfair advantage?
To be honest, no.
At times, it felt like a car show.
Yeah, the pressure's high when you show up in this sweet car.
Nat Cuban just got his Porsche, parallel parking it for the first time.
How'd I do? Good.
Pretty good.
Woo! Nice job, nice job.
Cheer Squad even showed up with signs.
Mine says, pretty girls hit curbs.
And no plans to compete themselves.
I get shy, I'm very nervous, and I get stage fright. I failed my first parking test.
For those who do enter, Leber says slow and steady does not win this race.
You have to park in less than 7 seconds. You basically need to pull your car in once, be close, and stop.
There are people who go backward, forward, backwards, forwards to try and make it perfect.
Totally. Yeah.
That's not what you want.
That's what we want in real life. You want people to respect the road and the curb, but it's a different game here.
With that in mind, it's my turn.
You know, I'm going to start making excuses right away. This is a rental car. It's not mine. I'm not familiar with it. I don't know how it works. So if I do poorly, that's my excuse.
I tried heeding Dan's advice, but it was quickly clear I was going nowhere fast.
I went with speed over
getting close to the curb. That was a pretty solid attempt. You're kind of far away.
It's safe to say I did not hit the curb.
I was very far from the curb. Dangerously far from the curb.
There were were plenty of pristine parks.
What was your secret there?
A lot of practice.
After all, this is a way of life here, which would explain the contest trophies. You see, Pittsburghers use folding chairs to claim their spots, especially after digging them out of the snow. A point of pride for a city with plenty of curb appeal.
Now, Dan says he has no plans to make this some sort of huge mega event, though if the 2028 LA Olympics come calling, he would not object. All right, now for this year's winner. It was Ephraim Freeman III. He parked in 13.38 seconds, ending up just 6 centimeters from the curb. Congrats to him. As for me, I actually parked in 16 seconds, but I was like 54 centimeters from the curb. So out of 183 participants, I ranked 84. Lisa's in the top half. Good Friday morning. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment. Right now on Morning News Now, stopping the stalemate. Ukraine's leader, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, heading to the White House today after President Trump announced he would travel to Hungary for more talks with Russia's Vladimir Putin. Mr. Trump deciding whether to sell Ukraine the long-range Tomahawk missiles that he called a vicious weapon. We're going to bring you the latest twists in this push to end the conflict. Also this morning, another one of President Trump's biggest detractors now facing charges. This time it's former National Security Advisor John Bolton, the outspoken critic of the president, expected in court today, charged with storing secret documents at home and sending classified information to relatives. Bolton firing back, saying he'll clear his name, accusing the president of seeking retribution. Dialing up the disturbance. If you think you're getting more of those annoying robotic calls and text messages, well, you're not alone. New research shows that nearly a third of us are getting at least one robocall a day. How phone companies are feeling the heat or not doing enough to stop them. Speaking of disturbing calls, those phone messages from beyond the grave are back, along with Ethan Hawke as the grabber in the horror sequel Black Phone 2. We're also going to talk about Julia Roberts' new thriller, After the Hunt, and Aziz Ansari's first movie as a director, Good Fortune. It's all in your Friday Can't Miss list. Let's start this hour with new developments this morning in the indictment of former National Security Advisor John Bolton. You see him leaving his home there earlier today. He is now expected to surrender to authorities, then make an initial court appearance after he was indicted by a federal grand jury yesterday. He's accused of mishandling classified information. Bolton and his lawyer deny he did anything wrong. It's just the latest in a series of indictments against several of President Trump's political adversaries. NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett has the latest.
Hey there, good morning to you. John Bolton, not just any Trump critic, but he's been a stalwart of Republican politics for decades now. But his highly public break with the president reaching a new level now with this indictment as he's expected to court today.
He once held the nation's top secrets, but this morning, John Bolton expected to surrender to authorities, according to 2 senior law enforcement sources, now facing 18 counts of mishandling classified information. The former National Security Advisor turned outspoken Trump critic, indicted by a federal grand jury Thursday, accused of sharing sensitive information he learned in the early years of the first Trump administration with 2 relatives, providing them with diary-like entries of his day-to-day activities. Prosecutors say Bolton sent more than 1,000 pages of meticulous notes over private AOL and Gmail accounts to his family members he referred to as his editors before he started shopping a memoir, which offered a devastating portrait of Trump's leadership. The indictment alleging at least one of Bolton's email accounts was later hacked by someone associated with the Iranian government, but he failed to tell the FBI the sensitive information that was allegedly compromised. The president, who said in the past Bolton should go to jail, reacting to the indictment.
But I think he's, a bad person. I think he's a bad guy, yeah.
Bolton has faced scrutiny for his handling of classified information since the waning days of Trump's first term, but he maintains the book contains no classified information, and the Biden administration ended the probe with no charges. But armed with a search warrant in August, the FBI searched his home and his office, carrying out several boxes and seizing his devices.
He's already come after me and several others. I think it is a retribution presidency.
Bolton now vowing to fight these charges, casting himself as the latest target of Trump weaponizing the Justice Department, likening the second Trump administration to Joseph Stalin. It all follows the indictments of two other Trump foes in recent weeks, but those charges brought by a single political appointee, whereas the far more detailed indictment of Bolton bearing the names of multiple career prosecutors.
And guys, before Bolton makes his first appearance there in court in Maryland, he will have to go through processing just like any other defendant, which includes fingerprinting, mugshot, and then he's expected to plead not guilty. Back to you guys.
All right, Laura, thank you so much. For more on this, we're joined by NBC News legal analyst Angela Senadella. So we heard Laura make the point there. This is a little bit more detailed. We're seeing these career prosecutors signing on to it. So it might be a little bit different from James Comey or Letitia James. What stands out to you most about these charges? What is going to be the critical piece of evidence moving forward?
So I think above all, what stands out the most, which might be obvious, is just who he is, right, Joe? So he is not going to get a lot of sympathy from a judge, from a possible jury about, oh, maybe he didn't really know. Like, this is literally his job. It is national security. And so also with this charges specifically, it said it's not just retention, but it's also dissemination. And with other public officials recently who we have seen investigations regarding their improper handling of classified material, it's generally just been retention, not also disseminating, which means transmitting and sharing with people who, if they are who we see from the indictment, are really obviously not those who have security clearance. So just kind of how obvious it is. Also, the size, the scope, the scale, these are 18 counts, and each carries up to a 10-year maximum prison sentence. So if he is convicted, it is possible he could spend the rest of his life behind bars.
We heard Bolton say this is politically motivated. He's called this a retribution presidency. He's made comparisons to Stalin. What's his defense? Is it similar to Comey and James, who sort of hinted at these sort of vindictive prosecutions, or is he going to have to go about this a different way?
So this whole vindictive prosecution angle is going to be very difficult for him. Generally, it's an extremely high bar and one that might not really apply here. But we have seen his lawyer, Abby Lowell, already come forth and make some public statements, including, for example, that these were just personal diaries. I think that's also a pretty weak defense, given, again, that he should have known that in disseminating these to people who didn't have security clearance, that could be highly problematic. So I think we're also going to see, though, line by line, count by count, whether or not each piece is truly classified. That's often what happens in these trials. And that's also why these trials can often take a long time, because you have to go through each piece of evidence. And there's often debate. How unclassified or classified was this?
We did get a statement released by the Attorney General Pam Bondi saying, quote, anyone who abuses a position of power and jeopardizes our national security will be held accountable. No one is above the law. When we consider the added context that James Comey and Letitia James are recently indicted, what precedent does this set for perhaps current or former officials as to whether they might face charges as well?
Right. So as you did note, though, originally, this is a little different from the others, right? So there are career prosecutors who have signed on to this. The Biden administration even did look at this years ago. Now, his lawyer is trying to use it to their defense by saying that, look, the Biden administration resolved this. But to the extent that they resolved it for reasons that are not related to weak evidence, it still means that the prosecution could be legit. So, look, it depends on your political perspective, whether or not you think this is good or bad for the country.
All right, Angela, appreciate you breaking this down for us. Thank you so much. President Trump is set to meet with Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelenskyy at the White House today. The visit comes just a day after Mr. Trump announced another summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin. That is set to happen sometime in the near future. The decision comes after a call President Trump held with Putin yesterday. On today's agenda, though, Mr. Trump will consider Ukraine's request for powerful American-made Tomahawk missiles. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander has the latest.
Good morning. President Trump says great progress was made in that call with Vladimir Putin. Of course, time will test that. Their meeting will take place in Budapest, Hungary. No date set. But just days after President Trump secured a historic but fragile ceasefire in the Middle East, President Zelenskyy says he hopes that deal will provide momentum for a possible end to the fighting with Russia. President Trump this morning preparing for another high-stakes summit with Vladimir Putin. The announcement coming after what the president says was a productive 2-hour call on Thursday with Russia's president, as President Trump tries to broker a deal to end Russia's 3-year-old war in Ukraine.
We want to get peace. We want to stop the killing.
The call setting the table for Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's White House visit today. Today, Ukraine's president is expected to urge President Trump to allow the transfer of long-range Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. But President Trump remains non-committal.
They're very accurate. They're very good, but we need them too. So I don't know what we can do about that.
Putin fiercely opposes any possible transfer, which a top Russian aide warned would significantly damage U.S.-Russian relations. The upcoming meeting comes more than 2 months after President Trump welcomed Putin to Alaska, a summit that produced no major progress and fueled President Trump's public frustration with Putin.
I'm very disappointed because Vladimir and I had a very good relationship, probably still do.
In the weeks since, Russia has only increased its strikes against Ukraine. The president hoping to use his personal relationship with Putin to end the war there, while he ramps up pressure in another region of his foreign policy.
We have a lot of drugs coming in from Venezuela.
Overnight, NBC News confirms that the military carried out another strike against an alleged Venezuelan drug boat. But for the first time, there were survivors, according to a U.S. official. It's the latest of multiple strikes in international waters aimed, the president says, at stopping the drug trade from Venezuela. But it comes as the head of U.S. Southern Command, which oversees the strikes, unexpectedly announced he would retire yesterday without giving any reason. The strikes have drawn criticism from lawmakers. But President Trump has doubled down, revealing there's been covert CIA action within Venezuela, and even implying the U.S. military could get involved on the ground.
We are certainly looking at land now because we've got the sea very well under control.
And about Venezuela, flight tracker data reviewed by NBC News shows just 2 days ago, 2 B-52 bombers took off from a Louisiana airbase and flew for several hours off the Venezuelan coast. This, a major show of force in an already volatile region. B-52s can carry dozens of precision-guided bombs. They've previously been used by the U.S. military in places like Iraq and Afghanistan to inflict significant damage on targets there. Back to you.
All right, Peter, thank you. Now, if the government shutdown continues for 2 more weeks, air traffic controllers across the U.S. will not get paid. Right now, they're already working for partial pay while facing a staff shortage that's only getting worse. Reporter Paisley Chang from our NBC New York station WNBC spoke to some of the workers impacted by the shutdown.
Air traffic controllers sounding the alarm.
It does take a toll on people, and it's not healthy.
Outside LaGuardia Airport, they're handing out pamphlets warning travelers that controllers are stressed and living on partial paychecks. If the government shutdown continues 2 more weeks, they could go without any pay.
How am I going to, provide for groceries and, provide for my family on top of, okay, I'm coming into work, I am having a stressful job and trying to put all that other stuff to the side.
The number of air traffic controllers were already dropping. Now shortages are causing delays in Nashville and Burbank, among other cities.
Got a raw deal, and I think in circumstances like this, they should always have emergency funds for like the military, for these are essential positions that need to be had. So it's something they just change with that.
The shutdown started October 1st. Republicans and Democrats at odds over federal spending priorities and policies.
We're not playing games. They're playing a game. We're not. The strategy is to do the right and obvious thing and keep the government moving for the people.
We're not going to support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people. We are open about having a good faith discussion.
Now travelers are feeling the impact, while TSA workers are at risk of not being paid.
I'm mortified they're not being paid, and I think they should not work. It's fine.
It's worrisome, and I think what they should do is call in sick like they've been doing, and if they have to shut the airports down, maybe that'll speed things up, and the Republicans might decide to do something.
At New York airports, the union representing controllers say people who aren't sick are showing up for work, but the continued shutdown promises to wear them down.
I still believe it is safe to fly. I just feel that the controllers are taking on an unneeded burden of stress.
And our thanks to Paisy Chang for that report. Turning now to those urgent rescues still underway in Alaska. A devastating storm has wiped out entire communities in remote areas along the state's coastline. Military planes are now helping to evacuate residents. In fact, officials are calling it one of the most significant airlift operations in Alaska's history. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz has the latest.
Well, hey there. Alaska's governor is now asking the White House to declare what's happening there a major disaster. Officials warn the desperately needed relief efforts could take months. The Red Cross says many of the areas that have been impacted are only accessible by air or sea, meaning flights to larger cities are now critical to getting residents to safety. In Alaska, a race to evacuate residents to safety. Officials calling it one of the largest airlift operations in the state's history. It comes after a massive storm devastated several low-lying communities on the state's west coast with deadly record flooding.
A lot of mist right here that washed all the way up.
Remnants of a typhoon last weekend leaving miles of destruction, wiping out critical infrastructure, including many roads. The storm even pushing some homes off of their foundations.
It has been a disaster of major proportions, and we're moving into winter.
The village of Kipnuk overwhelmed with water levels more than 6 feet above the highest normal tide line.
It was just so fast. The water came up when my window broke.
State police reporting at least one woman died and 2 others are missing.
She was the kindest person. She opened her doors to people.
More than 2,000 displaced residents overwhelming makeshift shelters in the remote communities, forcing the urgent evacuations.
It started coming in through the floor, the water. It was just scary.
The National Guard airlifting hundreds, first to Bethel and then to Anchorage, 500 miles away from their villages. Entire families and even pets packing into military planes. Some evacuees now staying in an emergency shelter at the Alaska Airlines Center.
This is traumatic. Folks are coming in here with just clothes on their back, but Alaskans are tough people.
This morning, what's next is unknown for Alaskans who have lost everything and now have no homes to return to.
We're going to start off scratch, start a new chapter.
And it's unclear when many residents are going to be able to return home. With winter approaching, officials fear these communities are not going to have access to the construction materials they need to rebuild because they will also need to be flown or shipped in. Back to you.
Thank you, Liz. It is a universal frustration for virtually everyone in the country, those relentless robocalls and text messages. New research suggests they're getting worse and that phone companies are not doing enough to stop them. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello has more on how much money these scammers are making off people and what to do if you get one of these unknown calls.
Yeah, this is a huge problem that seems to be growing worse. I don't know about you. I simply don't answer any phone call or text that I don't recognize. And experts say a lot of it is AI driven. Scammers want us to answer or text back so they know that our number is real. Don't do it.
I'm calling in regards to your pre-approval for a credit card consolidation loan up to $55,000.
No matter your age or area code, everyone gets them.
This message is from the Taxpayer Support Office. You've been marked for IRS resolution options.
Scam robocalls are exploding.
I don't care about my car's extended warranty.
And so are tempers. Nearly a third of us get at least one call every day.
I literally get about 30 calls a day.
That's Nayeli Zahner in Dallas. She has to answer every call because she's a realtor and it could be a customer.
You block them and another call comes in, another call. It's like continuous calls. So it's unbelievable.
Consumer watchdog Perg says spam robocalls are up 20% to a 6-year high, 420 million more calls each month.
I mean, these bad guys, they put out millions and millions, bazillions of phone calls and texts every single day, and they only need just a teensy tiny percentage of them to work.
While most people don't answer or hang up, the average person who is scammed loses nearly $3,700. Easy money for a scammer who could be overseas. PERG researchers say fewer than half of phone companies have installed the required caller ID or filters to block the calls. The U.S. Telecom Ministry tells NBC News it disagrees with the PERG findings, and it says robocalls have actually been declining. Phone companies, it says, have rolled out blocking and labeling tools for their customers to successfully trace these malicious scammers and work with law enforcement to shut them down. A Consumer Reports investigation finds 1 in 10 Americans has now lost money to a scam, with 18 to 29-year-olds most targeted in texting scams. The expert advice: ignore, delete, and report suspect calls and texts.
If it's a number you don't recognize and you're not expecting a phone call, don't answer it. Let it go to voicemail.
And try to keep your cool.
When I say take me off the call list, I mean take me off the call list.
Okay, some tips here so that you can avoid, hopefully you can avoid being scammed. Number 1, contact your cell phone company about blocking tools and apps that they offer. Register on the Do Not Call list. That should help block telemarketing calls. Set a voicemail password on your home phone so a hacker can't gain access to your voicemails. And above all, be suspicious and skeptical of any cold call or text. Back to you.
All right, Tom, thank you. All right, we've got all the details on what to expect this weekend with your morning news now weather. Angie, my hearing's still a little after that guy screaming there, but you say you can relate, right?
I for sure can relate, Joe. That was a live video of me, essentially, sometimes when I get all these scam calls. We've got a whole lot going on this week weather-wise, or weekend, I should say, weather-wise. We finally made it to Friday, and things are feeling like fall in some spots. Notice these frost advisories, freeze warnings. People were asking for the cooler weather. Well, it's delivered across parts of the Northeast where temperatures have dipped down into the 20s for Lake Placid, the 30s for Buffalo and Pittsburgh. We're waking up to just 48 degrees in Philadelphia. Of course, closer to the coast, not quite as chilly, but still temperatures on the cool side of things this morning and calling for maybe that extra layer. The middle of the country, meanwhile, a very different story. It is October, yet it feels like summer. We've still got 80s in St. Louis, as far north as Rockford, 70s for Indianapolis, 90 degrees expected in Shreveport and Jackson today, and near 90 for Dallas. That trend continues for tomorrow. Notice it spreads a little farther to the east. So if you live in Roanoke, if you live in Atlanta, we'll be upper 70s to low 80s tomorrow. And we keep the warmth going in Chicago and Des Moines with temperatures into the 70s. Cincinnati in October at 84 degrees, not something you see all the time. That doesn't last for all that long. We're going to start to see some cooler air kind of settle in for a good chunk of that region by the time we get into the end of our weekend. Check out Milwaukee, 59 degrees, a little bit of a weather whiplash there. Mid-60s, though, back by Monday, and we're back to the mid-50s by Tuesday. So you got to keep up with the changing temperatures day by day, hour by hour, some say. That was always a saying when growing up in the Midwest, Joe. We've got a little rain to track as well through the day today, and through the weekend, we'll see some of those stronger storms ramping up across the mid and lower Mississippi Valley tomorrow.
A friend getting married in Minnesota, the dress code was sweaters because you assume in mid-October
it's going to be chilly?
A sweater. No, it's going to be hot for the wedding, so apparently.
Well, right, but you assume when you're planning this wedding a year out, people are going to maybe need a coat.
Yeah,
not the case.
All right. Thanks, Angie. Appreciate it. Of course. Soccer fans around the globe are gearing up for the biggest sporting event on the planet. Soccer's governing body, FIFA, says more than 1 million tickets have now been sold for next summer's World Cup. No surprise, most of the demand coming from the tournament's hosts, USA, Canada, and Mexico. FIFA says fans from 212 different countries have purchased tickets since the official start of sales began earlier this month. 48 countries are set to compete, with the final taking place in New Jersey on July 19th. Much more to come on this Friday edition of Morning News Now. Let's have a little fun as we head into the weekend. A little later, I'm putting my parallel parking skills to the test in a one-of-a-kind competition that's got eager Pittsburgh drivers kicking their cars to the curb, literally. First, after the break, the world's top sumo athletes descending on London for the first grand tournament outside of Japan in decades. We'll take you inside the ring next. Welcome back. 1 week after that ceasefire went into effect between Israel and Hamas, aid groups are warning not enough food and medicine is getting into Gaza to help the enclave's starving population. Israel is continuing to restrict the amount of aid getting into the Strip and delaying the opening of the key Rafah border crossing with Egypt. Israel is blaming Hamas for not handing over the remaining bodies of hostages. Hamas says it needs more time to locate them because of the massive amounts of destruction in Gaza. NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley joins joins us now from Tel Aviv. So, Matt, both sides accusing each other of violating this one-week-old ceasefire. Israel says this delay is handing over hostage bodies, and that is threatening the truce. Well, Hamas says Israel is violating the truce by killing 24 Palestinians over this last week. And as we mentioned earlier, we're seeing these public executions by Hamas angering President Trump. Just what's the latest on all this? How tenuous, how fragile is the ceasefire right now?
Yeah, it's just like you're saying. I mean, the situation is still very tense, still very violent. People are still dying in the Gaza Strip. But relative to what we were seeing as recently as last week, the situation has calmed down considerably. That having been said, it looks as though, as you mentioned, that this ceasefire is very much in jeopardy, given all of the disputes between the two parties. Now, Hamas has said that they are trying their very best to deliver those 28 bodies to the Israelis. So far, they've given over 10 bodies, one of which was determined to not be one of the hostages at all. So now this was something that Israel and the negotiators knew. This was something that Hamas had sort of telegraphed in advance, that it was going to be very difficult for them to recover the bodies in time. They've said that they need outside people to help. Now, if you look at these pictures in front of you, you can see why. Gaza is completely destroyed. And actually, from the people that I've been speaking to, they say that some of the operatives, some of the Hamas militants who buried some of these bodies have since been killed in the war. So there aren't any people who know where the bodies are actually buried, which is obviously complicating things. And this was something that Hamas had said in advance. So whether or not this alone breaks the ceasefire, that's unclear. So far, it looks as though Israel has gone the route of what they might call sanctions, withholding aid as punishment to Hamas for not providing those bodies. That is, in a way, preferable to resuming this costly, deadly war.
So, Matt, I mean, some aid has been entering the enclave, but aid groups saying it is not enough to help Gaza's starving population. Do we know when Israel could reopen this Rafah crossing to let more aid in? Is it contingent upon the issue with the remaining hostage bodies?
Yeah, it's a good question, because actually Israel had threatened to dock some of the intake of aid into the Gaza Strip, but didn't go through with it. They were saying that they were going to reduce the number of trucks allowed into Gaza by half, from 600 to 300, as punishment for Hamas not providing those bodies that I just mentioned. Turns out they didn't follow through with that, but aid is still not going into the level of satisfaction to aid organizations and advocacy institutions. But at the same time, you were asking about the Rafah crossing. We heard from Israel Katz, the defense minister, saying that Rafah, that's the border between the Gaza Strip and Egypt, could open as soon as Sunday, but not to aid, only to foot traffic. The Israelis say that aid is flowing freely through the Kerem Shalom crossing between Israel and the Gaza Strip. But, as I said, as you said, there isn't enough aid at all, considering the gaping need that Gazans have been enduring for the past 2 years.
Matt, I know we've also been following the fate of a prominent Gaza physician, Dr. Abu Safia. He was captured and detained by Israeli forces without charge nearly a year ago. Many were hoping he would have been part of those released as part of the ceasefire deal. Looks like he's staying in detention longer. What's going on here? What's NBC News hearing from his family and supporters?
Yeah, I mean, they were hoping, but they also, according to his family, they had information that he was going to be included, and then he wasn't. And instead, his administrative detention has been extended by 6 months. Just a quick note, administrative detention essentially means, and this is something that happens with some regularity here in Israel, it means being held without charge. So with very little recourse to the legal levers that would allow him to dispute his detention. Now, the family members have been communicating with NBC News. Again, he's a prominent physician, as you're seeing here in these pictures, and they describe their heartbreak at his not being released as part of that prisoner and hostage exchange deal.
All right, Matt Bradley, appreciate all your reporting this week. Thank you so much. We've got some more international news now. Unrest in Peru as overnight protests by Gen Z activists turned deadly. NBC's Matt Bodner joins us now with our world news in 60 seconds. Matt, good morning.
Gen Z is on the march, Joe, and the Peruvian president is refusing to back down. The president yesterday formally refused calls by massive protests to resign. These demonstrations started last month, and they've been largely driven by Gen Z activists. They're calling for better pensions and wages. Crackdowns on the movement have seen one protester killed and about 100 people injured, 80 of them police officers. Moving along now to Argentina, a team of paleontologists has uncovered the remains of what they believe to be one of the oldest species of dinosaur. The new discovery is believed to have lived approximately 230 million years ago. The skeleton is nearly complete, and it suggests that it was a long-necked herbivore, about 2 meters long. And we'll wrap up this hour in Germany. Following the release of Taylor Swift's new album, The Life of a Showgirl, German Swifties are flocking to a museum in central Germany. It houses a painting of Shakespeare character Ophelia, similar to the one seen in the video for her song, The Fate of Ophelia. A museum spokesperson told the BBC they're astonished at the interest. I, however, am not.
No kidding. That's a good thing. As long as they don't think Taylor painted it, that's great. Whatever it takes to get folks to the museum. All right. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. Sumo Mania is taking over London as the UK's capital hosts the Grand Sumo Tournament. It's actually only the second time the event has been held outside Japan in the sport's 1,500-year history. And as NBC's Molly Hunter reports, the athletes have been making the most of their time in the city.
Across London this week, they are impossible to miss. About 40 elite sumo wrestlers, known as rikishi, some tipping the scales at more than 500 pounds, have come to town with great fanfare. Spotted crossing Abbey Road, riding e-bikes, strolling with another Japanese superstar, Hello Kitty, taking in the city sights, and greeting very, very eager fans.
I can't wait to go. We're so excited.
Yeah. It's been really exciting seeing them over here and being like, that's so close to us. And like,
it's
that's why we thought we'd take the opportunity to try and bump into a few of them.
Let's go, fast.
And mid-conversation, an opportunity presented itself.
You're the best. He's your favorite?
Yeah, absolutely. He's brilliant. He's a very unconventional fighter, isn't he? That's his style.
He is.
Very acrobatic.
These tickets have been sold out for months, and the last time sumo came to London was 34 years ago, selling out Royal Albert Hall in 1991.
And NBC News covered that event then, the first grand tournament in 1,500 years to be held on foreign soil.
The British fans love this samurai superstar.
You win by forcing your opponent out of the ring, the dohyo, or throwing them down inside of it. Outside Royal Albert Hall, 8-year-old Haruto from Nagoya, Japan, knows all the rikishi names. For the first time, along with those lucky enough to nab tickets, he'll see all the heavy hitters in one place. Molly Hunter, NBC News, London.
I was waiting for Molly to give it a try. All right, thank you, Molly. Coming up, an NBC News investigation. We're going to bring you the story of one Kansas man who's fighting for relief after being denied coverage for a life-changing back surgery and how his insurance provider handled the case after we stepped in. That's next on Morning News Now. We are back with a closer look at a frustrating challenge many Americans face with their insurance companies' denial of coverage. One man in Kansas with debilitating back pain saw a story on NBC Nightly News. It was so similar to his experience, he reached out to our team for help. NBC News correspondent Ann Thompson has more of his story and the care he finally received after we investigated.
Bernie and Diane Hoffman are avid hikers. In years past, walking Spain's Camino de Santiago.
123 miles.
So no back pain on the Camino?
No back pain.
Pain-free in Italy and Ireland, too. Now the 68-year-old grandfather in Wichita, Kansas, can't walk more than 10 yards.
How fast did this back pain come on?
I use the term, it went from zero to holy crap.
Since December, adapting nearly every activity to live with pain that's literally turned him upside down in search of relief.
I've got shooting pain, I've got burning pain, I've lost feeling in about half my foot.
Get on the floor. Even going so far as getting a human dog bed.
When you're in this position, are you in pain?
Yes, but it's minimal.
His doctor says he needs spinal reconstruction.
See, this is the vertebrae that is moved.
To fuse vertebrae and take pressure off nerves. His insurer, Aetna, said no.
Good boy. We actually had dates penciled in early May for the surgery. Then we get the decline for the procedure.
They declined it in part because you hadn't had physical therapy.
Correct. To which my doctor said, we can't physical therapy your back into, position.
Bernie did it anyway, but the surgery was denied again.
It's so hard to watch someone you love go through something like that and think, okay, we can fix this though, and then not be allowed to get that done.
Of course, then the physician says, well, we'll appeal, right? So there is an appeal process.
An appeal Bernie says didn't seem to be going anywhere. Then he turned on the news.
One family struggled to get coverage for the surgery needed by a young
we see this story the cost of denial, right? And it's about a woman who has severe back pain, who's had multiple denials from the same insurance company. And we look at each other like, that's us, right?
And like that story, within 24 hours of NBC News reaching out, Bernie learned this.
I get an email from Aetna saying, we've approved your procedure. So I don't think that was a coincidence.
Aetna tells NBC News that Bernie's doctor had 2 opportunities to engage with its medical team and declined to do so. After NBC News contacted Aetna, the company says it proactively contacted Bernie's physician for documentation that had not been previously provided. They now say they plan to cover the spinal surgery.
There we go.
Bernie disputes that the information was not provided when Aetna requested it, and his doctor declined to talk to us. Now Bernie looks forward to the day he can pick up his grandchildren again.
What has this denial cost you?
Well, if I get the surgery on the 21st of October, which is the schedule, by the time I recover, I will have lost an entire year of normal life.
Time he will never get back. Ann Thompson, NBC News, Wichita, Kansas.
Coming up, a troubling job market trend that's got some top labor officials sounding the alarm. When Morning News Now returns, we're going to dig into a stunning new report revealing that black unemployment is surging. So what is behind the uptick and how's it impacting workers? We got that up next. We are back with a troubling trend that experts say could be a warning sign for the economy. Data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that black unemployment has surged from 6% in May to 7.5% this month. In that same time, unemployment has dropped slightly for white workers. It is especially startling because just 2 years ago, black unemployment hit a record low. Some economists say the Trump administration's mass layoffs and aggressive push to end diversity programs could be to blame. For more, let's bring in Diedrich Asante Muhammad. He is the president of the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies. Diedrich, good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us this morning. So we know black unemployment's been on the rise since those pandemic subsidies went away, subsidies that actually helped lower unemployment numbers. We also know when President Trump took office this year, one of the first moves he made, ordering government contractors to stop pursuing racial equity, later cutting DEI programs in the federal government. Help us put this all into context. What's the impact all these changes are having on black workers?
Yeah, I mean, I think, that's something many of us are wrestling with. One thing we have noticed is that actually, there was a turn against the DEI that happened really almost a year after the George Floyd murder. So by 2023, you are already seeing some corporate pullback from, and again, DEI is a broad thing, but we at the Joint Center, America's Black think tanks, focus on is how does it focus on black workers, and the idea of actually doing outreach, of actually trying to make sure that blacks were represented at proportional levels in their offices was already retracting. And then, as you mentioned, as the Trump administration comes into power and takes that to government and actually puts more pressure on corporate America to move away from that, we've been seeing an increase of black unemployment from 6 to around 7.5%, which is troubling because it was exciting that for the first time in generations, we were seeing African-American unemployment at such low rates and actually for the first time bridging the 2-to-1 inequality that historically has been the reality for blacks and whites. And so I think this with the government shutdown, with cutting government jobs, raises much questions about the economy as a whole, and particularly how it will affect black America.
We know historically black workers have faced more employment and economic challenges than their white counterparts. How is this surge we've seen in just the last few months different from what we've seen in the past?
Well, I mean, as you're noting, it's several things are coming together. This kind of anti-DEI effort and actually anti-DEI, and oftentimes it seems outright anti-black effort of even just getting rid of black officials and then replacing them with whites, and almost the idea that if you have a black person in your office, that is somehow a DEI program versus this is something, versus people being hired because they're well credentialed and not being discriminatory and preventing people from having an opportunity. So this plus this kind of unsure economic reality we're in, you know, with kind of constant changes in government policy, tariffs, these types of things. You know, there's been concern for years that the country is headed toward a recession. And my great concern is that if the country goes into a recession at the same time that we're dismantling government programs, government services that are so effective in keeping the economy going when the private economy is weak, could mean that we are weak in two areas, and those who are most vulnerable will suffer the most.
Is this potentially a canary in the coal mine for the broader economy?
It could be. It could be. It is interesting that as we've seen black unemployment go up, we've seen white unemployment go down. And I think one other factor we have to look at is there is a technological revolution occurring. And, you know, there's been concerns about where technology leads to some mass job layoffs. And so if we have that with a weak economy, with the one thing left, which would be government to kind of help people go through a transition, if we weaken that as well, you know, we could be headed to a very challenging time.
Diedrich, Santi Mohammed, thank you for your time this morning. Important conversation. We appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me.
Some more financial headlines now. Weight loss drug giants are under pressure on Wall Street as the White House targets prescription costs. CNBC's Frank Holland joins us now with that and some other money news. Frank, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Good to see you as well. Shares of Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, they're under some pressure this morning. This is after the president vowed to cut the price of their popular weight loss drugs. The president saying Ozempic will be, quote, much lower once the administration wraps up talks with Novo Nordisk, suggesting it could fall to as low as $150. Earlier this year, the company cut the price for people who cannot get Ozempic through their insurance. They cut it in half, down to $499. Nintendo is asking its suppliers to produce up to 25 million units of the new Switch 2 console by the end of March. Bloomberg is reporting that would set up the company for record sales in the device's first year. Nintendo's future hinges on the Switch 2 being a big success. It's more than doubled spending on marketing since the launch back in June to ensure that the Switch 2 gets off to a fast start. And Waymo is teaming up with DoorDash to make its self-driving cars a delivery option for users in the Phoenix area. You can already hail a ride, but this will give the robo-taxis just something to do when they're not driving people around. Deliveries will initially be limited to things you can order through DashMart, which is DoorDash's platform for convenience and grocery stores. Once your order arrives, you're going to have to get it out the trunk to complete the delivery. That's not too bad, though. Just walk out there, grab it out the trunk, you got your stuff, Joe.
I was about to say, I hope it's not bringing the delivery to your door, actually. So, all right. All right, Frank, thanks to you and all our friends at CNBC. We appreciate it. For 5 years, Pittsburgh has hosted a contest that puts your driving skills to the test. Actually, one skill in particular, parallel parking. Now, you might be thinking, I could win that. I thought so, too. So I traveled to Pittsburgh to give it a shot. Let's just say when the pressure's on, when strangers are watching, when you have to park fast without hitting another car or hitting the curb, then you just might face a roadblock.
Beneath a rusty bridge in the heart of Steel City.
All right, good luck.
Cars are willingly lining up to tackle the most dreaded part of the driver's test.
No!
The skill that drives us nuts.
How'd it go there?
Well, I was disqualified to hit the curb.
This is the Pittsburgh Parallel Parking Competition, a friendly neighborhood contest created by Dan Lever back in 2021.
Why on earth are you doing this?
My mother is a good parallel parker. That flowed into me as an adult. So, like, I also think that I'm a good parallel parker, and I've proved myself wrong with my own event.
Dan developed a complex formula taking 3 things into account: speed, distance from the curb,
25,
and the length of your car.
14.
The bonus for the bigger vehicles wedging into the 20-foot space.
You know, somebody who does well in an F-150 versus a Honda Fit, that's a different game.
And yes, if you hit the curb, you're DQ'd.
I thought about coming in my Honda Fit, but that didn't feel like a real challenge, so.
Now are you rethinking your strategy?
I mean, nothing's stopping me from going home and getting it.
Woo, here we go. Tracy Berg-Fulton gave it a shot driving a retro 1959 Nash Metropolitan. She had to curb.
Power steering ain't working either. Oh, there it is. Oh, no.
Her enthusiasm.
In my daily driver, I'm quite good. When I don't have power steering, I lose a little bit there.
What if the steering wheel is on the other side? Pete Scott brought his Hilux Surf, a Japanese car that fared fairly well.
Do you think this gives you an unfair advantage?
To be honest,
At times, it felt like a car show.
The pressure's high when you show up in this sweet car.
Matt Cuban just got his Porsche, parallel parking it for the first time.
How'd I do? Good.
Pretty good.
Nice job, nice job.
Cheer Squad even showed up with signs.
Mine says pretty girls hit curves.
And no plans to compete themselves.
I get shy, I'm very nervous, and I get stage fright. I failed my first parking test.
For those who do enter, Leber says slow and steady does not win this race.
You have to park in like less than 7 seconds. You basically need to pull your car in once, be close, and stop.
There are people who go backwards, forwards, forwards to try and make it perfect.
Totally. Yeah.
That's not what you want.
That's what we want in real life. You want people to respect the road and the curb, but like, it's a different game here.
With that in mind, it's my turn.
You know, I'm gonna start making excuses right away. This is a rental car, it's not mine. I'm not familiar with it, I don't know how it works, so if I do poorly, that's my excuse.
I tried heeding Dan's advice, but it was quickly clear I was going nowhere fast.
I went with speed over getting close
that was
to
a
the
pretty
curb.
solid attempt. You're kind of far away.
It's safe to say I did not hit the curb.
I was very far from the curb. Like, dangerously far from the curb.
There were plenty of pristine parks.
What was your secret there?
A lot of practice.
After all, this is a way of life here, which would explain the contest trophies. You see, Pittsburghers use folding chairs to claim their spots, especially after digging them out of the snow. A point of pride for a city with plenty of curb appeal.
Now, Dan says he has no plans to make this some sort of huge mega event, though if the 2028 LA Olympics come calling, he would not object. All right, now for this year's winner. It was Ephraim Freeman III. He parked in 13.38 seconds, ending up just 6 centimeters from the curb. Congrats to him. As for me, I actually parked in 16 seconds, but I was like 54 centimeters from the curb. So out of 183 participants, I ranked 84. At least as in the top half.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.